Abdulhadi. Today I'm going to explain for you the monetary system. The banking system and the money supply. The Federal Reserve System, also known simply as the Fed, is the central bank of the United States. The Fed has several important functions such as supplying the economy with currency, holding deposits of banks, lending money to banks, regulating the money supply, and supervising the banking system. Most modern economies are based on a fractional reserve banking system. Fractional reserve banking is designed to assure that banks have enough liquid assets on hand to satisfy the normal withdrawals made by checking account deposits. Actual bank reserves equal bank deposits held at the Fed plus bank valued cash. Both of these assets are readily available to satisfy customer withdrawal or transfer to other banks as customer write checks. The Fed established a requirement reserve ratio, which is the percentage of checkable account deposits that the bank are required to hold as reserve. Thus, the minimum required reserve equals required reserve ratio multiply checkable deposits. The Fed's tools of monetary policy. The Fed has three tools at its disposal to alter the money supply: open market operation, changing the discount rate, changing the reserve requirements. So let me explain for you the first one. What is OMO, open market operation? Open market operation refers to the Fed's purchases and sales of bonds issued by the U.S. Treasury. These transactions are with the bank, public, and firms. When the Fed buy bonds in the bond market, it pays for the bond by creating new bank deposits at the Fed. These new banks deposits at the Fed add to the bank excess reserve and can therefore form the basis of multiple expansion of the money supply through the new loan creation by banks. So, what's our open market operation? As I said, open market operation equals central bank purchases and sale of government securities on the open markets. Here's an example how does the market operation works. So in summary, open market purchases increases reserve and allow the banks to increase money supply. Open market sales reduce reserves, thus reducing the bank ability to create money and therefore reducing the money supply. And that's the example. So, how the Federal Reserve Bank used this process to change the money supply? The Federal Reserve basically uses various tools, as I said before, to affect the supply of money available for the economy. Open market operations are the most subtle of them and consist of buying and selling of U.S. Treasury securities to gently increase or decrease the money supply in small increments over time. In the next few slides, I will give an example of the reserve requirement, open market operation, and the money supply. So, for the first example, assume that banks do not hold excess reserve and that households do not hold currency. So, the only form of money is demanded deposit. To simplify the analysis, suppose the banking system has total reserve of $500. Determine the money multiplier and the money supply for each reserve requirement listed in the below table. A lower reserve requirement is associated with a larger money supply. The money multiplier is reciprocal ratio. Under the assumption that banks do not hold excess reserve, the reserve ratio will be equal to the reserve requirement set by the Federal Reserve. For reserve, the requirement of 25%, the reserve ratio is 1 over 4, and the multiplier is therefore 4. When the multiplier is 4, the banking system with $500 in reserve can support 2,000. Like 4 multiplied 500 will equal 2,000 in demanded deposits. If the reserve requirement falls from 25% to 10%, the reserve ratio falls from quarter to 1 over 10, and the multiplier rises from 4 to 10. At a lower reserve requirement, the banking system $500 in reserve support, 10 multiplied $500 will equal $5,000 in demanded deposits. Here, as you see. For a given level of reserve, a higher reserve requirement is associated with a smaller money supply. At a higher reserve requirement, banks must hold a larger fraction of their deposit as reserves. This keeps more reserve away from the money created process. Therefore, the higher the reserve requirement, the fewer demanded deposits are generated in the money creation process from a given change in reserves. For this example, suppose the Federal Reserve wants to increase the money supply by 200. Again, you can assume that banks do not hold excess reserve and the household do not hold currency. If the reserve requirement is like 10%, the Fed will use open market operation to buy $20 worth of the government bond. So let me explain that for you guys. To increase the money supply, the Fed must buy government bonds. In order to pay for the bonds, the Federal creates money. Its purchase of the bonds puts the new money in the hands of the public. Assuming the household do not hold cash, the new money will be placed in demanded deposits with banks. At a reserves requirement of a 10%, the money multiplier is 10. Therefore, the money supply will grow up 10 times the initial increases in demand deposits from the Fed's open market purchase. If the Fed buys $10 worth of government bonds, the demanded deposits and the bank reserve will rise by $20. The $20 increases in reserve will support an increase in the money supply of 10 multiplied 20 will equal $200 as the bank lends out the excess reserve generated by the Fed's purchases. Moving on to the last example now, suppose that rather than immediately lending out all the excess reserves, banks began holding some excess reserves due to uncertain economic conditions. Specifically, banks increased the percentage of the deposits held as reserve from 10% to 25%. This increase in reserve ratio causes the money multiplier to fall to 4. Under these conditions, the Fed would need to buy $50 worth of the government bonds in order to increase the money supply by 200. So let me explain that for you. Uncertain economic conditions cause banks to hold some excess reserves, increasing the percentage of deposits held as reserve from 10% to 25% and increasing the reserve ratio from 1 over 10 to 1 over 4, the money multiplier falls from 10 to 4. The reciprocal of the new reserve ratio, 1 over 4. When banks hold additional reserves, the Fed will have to buy more bonds in order to increase the money supply by a given amount. Specifically, An open market purchase of $50 worth of bonds rather than 20 is now required to increase the money supply by 200. When the Fed buys $50 in the government bonds demanded deposits and the bank reserve price by $50. With the smaller multiplier, the $15 increases in the reserves will support an increase in the money supply of 4 multiplied 50 will equal to 200.
Here are a summary, for example, for the open market operation, as you see here. And this one will summarize all the slides. Thank you for watching.